Welcome to Click to Learn More, the show that sounds like clickbait.
But it's actually two dorks.
I'm Liddy.
I'm Dorm.
And this week, Dorm.
Yes.
We're going to talk about Caligula.
What is that?
It's a fella.
Okay. A good fella?
No, a bad fella.
Aw.
Many would say...
The good fellas are bad fellas.
Many would say a really not nice fella.
Okay, so can I share with you before we get into
Yes, you can. You told me you had a story.
So, yeah, Liddy told me that she was doing Caligula, and I have a very strange anecdote with Caligula. Actually met it. No. So...
That would be my story.
When I was in, middle school, I think.
Okay.
There was... There's popular Flash game websites. Remember those? Like Congregate and Newgrounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Adult Swim Games, before they made their foray into the iconic Robot Unicorn Attack, the mobile game, they had a Flash game called Viva Caligula.
Oh, no.
And I found it, made sure that's what it was when I told you this. I played the hell out of it, and it was...
What was it?
I started it back up just to see what it was.
Yeah.
It's basically like an open world little Flash game. I mean, open world for a Flash game. It's top down.
Okay.
And... the way you attack is just by hitting any key on your keyboard. So it's just like mashing.
That's fantastic.
Things. Yeah. You could also connect a microphone.
No.
And yell.
And it would
affect the game. So like people would like cower away from you and stuff. Still works. Fantastic little thing.
That's
great. That's like the height. I mean, I know like a little bit about like the time period, but I that is like the height of my anecdotal knowledge.
That's really fun, because I kept thinking, I was like, I hope it's not something that, like, some really funny, cool thing that I'm gonna come into,
no.
that I have planned in the research later on.
That's why I said,
but it was a separately fun.
That's why I didn't tell you what it was.
Yeah,
because I was like, there's no way you're gonna uncover this.
That was very good. I want a video game where I can be loud and win, so I appreciate those. So Caligula is described as the first emperor and he's Roman emperor, who was admired by everyone in, quote, all the world from the rising to the setting sun. And Caligula was not his actual name.
What was it?
So his name was Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus.
Okay.
So he was a descendant from the Julius Caesar.
And also from Augustus, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Germanicus was his dad.
Okay, what does Gaius have to do? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Okay.
So his name is Gaius.
So his full name, I understand this now. So like his name was Gaius, and then they just listed every notable person that was in his family.
Listed his important people. Yeah. So it was his first name, and then just humble brags.
Yeah, exactly.
Right after. So it was just like
Peyton Archie,
and also it was name dropping.
Yeah.
So it was his name, and then name dropping within his own name.
It was name dropping.
Yeah. It was name dropping. It was nameception. So he was also known as Caligula, which is what I'm going to call him because the other name is ridiculously long.
What is it? GJCAJ?
G.
Oh, G.
Yeah.
Oh, Germanicus is a G.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He was Rome's third emperor, and he reigned for 3 years and 10 months. I believe they say like 1,400, I think it was 1,440 days-ish.
Yikes.
Something like that.
It's a short run.
So not a really long run, and we're going to find out why. He died at the age of 28. I found another source that said 27, and another source that said 29. So it's, it's ancient Rome. Bear with me. We're going to say 28.
Yeah. Late 20s.
Yeah. He's gone down in history, perhaps unfairly, as Rome's most tyrannical emperor. He was a dinosaur. But since records of his short reign are virtually non-existent...
Was that a Tyrannosaurus joke?
It was indeed.
Okay, I was making sure I didn't miss a more specific dinosaur joke. It's like, is the Emperor some sort of dinosaur?
So it's impossible to know, like, which of, if any, of the wilder stories about him are actually true, because a lot of the stuff that was written about him was after he was already dead by his enemies. So a lot of the stuff that was left behind, was just like, can you believe this guy? Because they tried to wipe the history books of him because he was so terrible. So he was born into the first ruling family of the Roman Empire, which was conventionally known as the Julio-Claudian dynasty. Now, the Julio-Claudian dynasty was the first Roman imperial dynasty, which consisted of the first 5 emperors. So that's Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero.
Nice.
So that was the first, which is this is also a boy band. So it's a K-pop group.
Nero's the bad boy.
Nero's obviously the bad
He's
boy.
got like a lot of flame aesthetic going on.
Yeah,
he plays violin.
He plays violin. And he's not very helpful. So growing up, Caligula was constantly reminded of the high expectations that his parents had for him.
Okay.
And that kind of hung over his head a little bit because like you got Julius Caesar blood in you, man. Like you're supposed to be pretty good, but
that's what Julius Caesar was known for.
Yeah.
Julius Caesar, pretty good.
Pretty good. Had an all right salad.
All right.
So
and a good haircut.
And a great
look at George Clooney in Ocean's 11.
A great haircut. So his mother's name was, I'm gonna try to say this. Agrippina, Agrippina, the elder. So your mother had the elder, and I think her mother's name was Julia. So her mother was Julia the elder. So they were just automatic. I'm just gonna be Lidi the elder. And she had 9 children with Caligula's father. Yeah, okay. So she used to dress him in these tiny little soldier uniforms and kind of parade him around the camp.
Oh my god.
Which is how he got his name, because Caligula means little boot or little boots.
Oh, that's cute.
It means little boots. And so he got called Caligula.
Yeah.
And he eventually would learn, like, would grow to hate this name.
Of course.
But it stuck. So she
was almost like a stage mom, kind of?
Kind of.
Like, oh, look at this.
Yeah, look at my, yeah. So he wasn't.
Pre-Facebook, right?
Yeah. It was, look how I love my child so much. Look, you unfold your wallet of pictures of your child, and it's just him.
Just a scroll.
It's a scroll, and he's etched into a stone.
Yeah. Pulls out a tablet that just folds out.
He ended up hating that name, which I think is sad, but he's known as that.
This so far sounds like a comic book villain backstory.
Yeah.
And I'm very into it.
Yeah, like, it's gonna be good.
Cool.
When he was 7, his father was poisoned and passed away. So this also falls into this like comic book villain backstory. Yeah, now it's Disney. Now rumor has it that Caligula's great uncle Tiberius, who was the emperor at the time,
great name,
arranged plans to poison Caligula's father because he was too popular among both the soldiers and the civilians. So he poisoned his best general and killed him for being too popular. So his downfall was that people liked him too much.
Was it a bit of like Brutus paranoia?
So I think it was equal parts jealousy, and it was, if he decides to overthrow me, the people will be on his side. Yeah. And he's a general, he's got a lot of power.
There's a coup coming. We've got to cut down the coup. So he cut down the coup, because that's what you do. Sounds like a euphemism. A couphemism.
He cut down the coup. Which is a shame, because basically little Caligula had to watch his father die. And so after he passed away, the Emperor Tiberius still believed that his remaining family were a threat to him and his power, especially because his mother publicly declared that she would get revenge, like that she would seek revenge for her husband's death. Which you shouldn't have done. No. You don't say in public, like, I'll avenge him.
Coming at you.
Yeah, because guess what's going to happen? You're going to get exiled.
It's called The Avengers.
Yeah. No. Except the opposite. Because you're going to get exiled into, into nowhere with your oldest son. Yeah.
You never get exiled into like a cool city.
Yeah, you don't get exiled to like Cancun.
Yeah.
You get like exiled to like a rock.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Not the country.
Just a literal boulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, not Johnson. You don't get, like, sent to a cool place. Boulder Johnson. So he sent Caligula's mother and oldest brother, like I said, just out into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because he had them arrested on the charge of treason. Because she stated, like, you did this, and also here's the oldest brother who is a threat. Caligula's 7 at the time, so he's not much of a threat.
Sure.
So they're exiled to the middle of nowhere. His mother starves herself to death.
Okay.
And his oldest brother commits suicide.
Well, so now, she kind of did too.
Yeah. She starved herself. It says starved herself to death. They don't really say if, like, maybe she, couldn't find food because she was exiled. But
wouldn't that...
It's suicide either way. I mean...
I think herself would drop if it was just she starved to death.
I guess the the difference would be that he had an act to do it, whereas she didn't act. And died, you know, so he made the effort to do it.
I never thought of it.
She made no effort to do it. So I don't know if you would still. I mean,
that's really interesting.
I don't know. I don't know where that falls on the scale because I'm not sure, but he made an act to kill himself.
My opinion just changed on the matter.
Tiberius had another of Caligula's brothers thrown into a cell beneath the palace, and that young man starved to death. But before he passed away, he tried to eat his mattress. It is said that he was so hungry that he tried to eat his mattress.
I wonder what mattresses were made of at
Probably
the time.
like straw.
Or like feathers?
Animal feathers?
Maybe?
Like animal...
It wouldn't be that
fluff.
lush in a basement.
You don't think? It would just be like a little pallet then.
Yeah, I'm correcting myself. It'd
Maybe
have to be like
straw. Something pokey. Not comfy. I don't think it'd be comfy.
Just straw with like a...
little straw pillow on top.
Hide on top of it.
You think they gave him hide?
Yeah, maybe.
Think maybe he got some hide out of it? I don't know if he even got that. Poor little thing. But think about Caligula at this point. He's watched his father die. His mother and his oldest brother got exiled and they're dead.
Yeah.
And then another one of his brothers has starved to death under the, in the palace.
Under the floorboards.
Under the floor of the palace. So he's lost, this many people at the age of 7.
Jesus. He's
lost this many people. Now, historians believe that Tiberius spared Caligula's life because he was too young to be a threat, which I said before. And the act of evil that he witnessed from his great uncle would shape him for the rest of his life. So, once you see things like this happen and you see one person with all of this power doing all of this stuff and getting away with it, that's going to affect you in a really big way. So, 10 years later, he's 17 now, he's invited to Tiberius's lavish palace. Now, opinions were split on this because people thought, oh, he's definitely going to kill him. He's getting old enough to take over. He's creeping up on the reign. He's definitely about to kill this boy. Other people were like, oh, he's going to make him his right-hand man and he's going to be, his servant or whatever,
Right.
So it's untelling what Caligula felt at this time, because you have to go live with the person that single-handedly possibly murdered your dad, not quite sure.
Yeah.
Definitely murdered your mom and a couple of your brothers.
Yeah.
This person killed people that you were related to and also is related to you. So
it's a mess.
Freaking Rome, man.
Making Murder Season 2.
Rome. So Caligula got a taste of debauchery while he was in Tiberius's palace. Now, a lot of people know Caligula because of the orgies and because of the massive amounts of food and parties and wine and all that stuff. And we'll touch on that in a little bit. But the main thing is that he was basically kept here. He didn't really want to be here. He was kind of just kept.
He was a captive.
He was kind of a captive. So Tiberius was gross because the walls at Tiberius's palace were painted with pornographic imagery. Think of modern, what we would know as the Kama Sutra kind of stuff nowadays.
Yeah, that's what I was picturing.
It was painted on the walls, and he had some young tastes in both boys and girls, and he referred to them as his minnows. And would swim naked with them in his mini pools. So that's gross.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Do you know because you said the word debauchery?
Yes.
It's a great word. Does that come from Bacchus? Are those intertwined?
The god of wine?
Yeah, and parties and shit, basically.
I'm not sure, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
because that sounds. That sounds legit. If it's not, don't correct me.
Yeah, it's actually from Bacchus.
Don't correct us. We're never wrong. Fast forward to being wrong. So Tiberius.
Sorry, I had to get away from that Minnows comment as quickly as possible. We need to move on.
Tiberius encouraged. Well, we're not done talking about it yet. Tiberius encouraged Caligula to join in.
How old? 17, right?
He's 17, yeah.
Jeez.
And he did because the punishment for angering the emperor was to be hurled off a 1,000-foot drop into the ocean below. Off of a rock cliff into the sea.
Full 300,
Yeah, this is madness. So, this is Sparta. You get, except it's some Rome. But you get kicked in the chest and you get dropped off a 1,000-foot drop into the ocean. So he's gonna do what he's got to do, especially if he thinks he's got a shot at this emperor.
Talk about high stakes.
Yeah.
You're either gonna be emperor or gonna die.
Yeah, and that's it. And I watched a documentary about it, and the guy talking about it said that at this time, pretty much every emperor, every leader was incredibly paranoid of everyone around them, because it was either you're loved as a ruler, in which case if people do overthrow you, you know, like, who's going to stop them? It's normally going to be somebody that's got a lot of armor and is, you know, the common folk can't save you.
Right.
Or everybody hates you and then you get killed.
Right.
So, like, there's no, you know, either way you can get killed. Yeah, you can get killed either way. And like we saw with with Caligula's dad, if you're popular, more popular than the emperor, you might get killed for your popularity, which is terrible, even if you're related to the emperor. So, gross. So, over time, Caligula got his fill of orgies, violence, and absolute power. So he got to see all of this.
The Holy Trinity, as it were.
Yes, exactly. The unholy Trinity.
Yeah.
So all he had to do was wait out Tiberius, because once Tiberius died, the empire's his. Because Tiberius had two sons who were supposed to, the empire was supposed to go to them, but they had already passed away by the time Tiberius was old enough to pass away.
Gotcha.
So he was still living. So Caligula's just hanging in there. And not to say he didn't enjoy it. I mean, some people said that he had a mean streak and he was kind of evil early on.
Which makes sense given his origin story.
Right. Other people tend to paint him with a little more, like, of a naive kind of brush.
Like a sympathy.
Yeah, like, we feel sorry for him because he's been through so much, and so he's acting out or lashing out as a young man would. But either way, we don't, like I said, we don't really know, because there's no definitive proof of anything that's been left behind.
Yeah.
So he being Caligula, befriended the captain of the Praetorian Guard. Okay. So the Praetorian Guard were hired to protect the emperor. So one source that I found called them a cross between the Navy SEALs and the Secret Service. Okay. So they're specially trained personal bodyguards.
That's interesting that
for the
concept
emperor
goes that far back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they were often paid, like, given money or given, I looked it up, but I don't remember what the currency was, but they were given money to protect him because that was their job. So Caligula, being intelligent, befriends the leader. Some places I found his name being Macro, and some places I found it being Marco.
I was hoping it would be Micro.
I know. he was a big influence. And so so Caligula promised him power in exchange for his support when he needed it. So he told him, like, hey, when I become emperor, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, kind of thing. Like, you be good to me, I'll be good to you. Don't worry about it. Sometimes maybe literally. Sometimes maybe literally might need you scratch my back. Yeah. Because he was a hairy man. Caligula was a very hairy man. Oh. Hey, that was an inside joke nobody knew about until I told you the rest of it.
We all need a good back scratch every now and then.
That's true. So the first Caligula was the first Roman emperor to bribe guards.
Oh, a good historical note.
Mm-hmm, but not the last.
Congratulations.
Yeah, right. Good job. He actually set the precedent for moving forward, like, guards being paid off. It kind of, in future years, became an expectation that guards would almost be paid off. So, like, the emperors always had to pay more than what, you know, someone who's trying to bribe them would pay. Yeah. So at 77 years old, Tiberius falls ill, and some sources claim that at this point, Caligula sees that it's his time to strike. So, like, while he's on his deathbed, Caligula sneaks in, holds a pillow over his face, smothers him to death.
Wow.
Now, other people say he just died naturally. He was 77. He was on his deathbed.
At the time, especially, like, that's old.
Right. Other people say it was his Praetorian Guard. That Caligula convinced him, hey, listen, all this fame and fortune we're going to have together would be here so much faster if you just went ahead and killed him.
He's going anyway.
And who would be the person that could get the closest to him? It's going to be somebody that he trusts, which is going to be his guard, or somebody who's related to him, which is going to be Caligula. So there was a story that I read that said that Caligula at one point had actually come into the room with a dagger, intended to kill Tiberius, and then had ended up, like, losing his nerve and dropping it. And Tiberius was just like, whatever, I don't care, you're not going to kill me.
Damn.
Yeah. So
hard ass even on his deathbed. I like it.
So it's believed, like I said, he could have avenged the death of his family by suffocating his great uncle, and then Some people think that Micro did it.
Micro is my favorite 90s R&B band.
Now, with Tiberius dead.
Caligula's in power.
Daddy's home. Caligula's time to shine. So he's the emperor now.
Okay.
And also he called himself daddy. He didn't. Don't quote me.
He called himself Zaddy.
Ew. It was said that over 160,000 animals were sacrificed during the 3 months of public rejoicing to usher in the new reign.
Just sacrificed.
Everyone hated Tiberius. Hated him. Could not stand him. Hated him.
And so, in celebration, let's slaughter this
murder
goat.
a bunch of animals. Can you imagine? Who thought that was a good idea? Who looked at a squirrel and held it by its tail and cut its little head off and was like...
sacrificing squirrels?
Yeah, they were definitely sacrificing squirrels. You think they didn't... They had 4,000 squirrels. They lined them all up, chopped their little tiny heads off. Smashing turtles left and right with hammers. Terrible.
I love this idea that all of these sacrifices happened in like an hour.
Swinging lizards around by their tails, throwing them against the wall, and they stuck and splat and fell down like those little sticky hands you get out of a 25-cent machine.
That's how you know they're done.
Yeah, that's how you know they're done. Got stuck to the wall. Tying snakes around your stomach like a belt and tying them too tight, and then they strangle on their own necks. Terrible. Crocodiles just sitting on them. Sitting on them too hard. Holding them underwater till they can't breathe no more. Fish got them out of the water.
I love that you had all of these very beautifully done, like, specific ways to kill these animals. And then for crocodiles, you just said sitting on them, which was absolutely perfect.
Everybody knows they hate being sat on. Just saying. Just saying.
Classic crocodile fact.
Crocodiles hate being sat on. I don't know what to tell you. They hate it. It's their kryptonite. They hate it. They can't handle it. They hate it. Instantly dead like that. Sit on the head. Pop. It pops off. Pops right off. I feel bad for making jokes about animals getting killed now.
All the animals from that era are dead. Does it make you happy?
No.
All of them are dead.
And all of their ancestors are dead too.
Yeah, they're all dead.
That's good. That's sad. Anyway.
It'd be more terrifying if they weren't.
Yeah, it'd be scarier if they were still alive.
We would just like step out and there would just be animals everywhere.
Just sit on the crocodiles if you see them.
That's how you get to work.
That's how you do. Oh my god, could you imagine? All right, we're getting off track.
Yeah.
Now, at first, everybody loved Caligula because he was generous
and he wasn't Tiberius.
And he wasn't Tiberius. He was loved where Tiberius was hated. Right. So at 24 now, he's a pretty young leader. He's still kind of green.
We would say Gallon over here.
Okay. You did that joke once before, I think.
Did I really?
I think you did. I don't remember. I made a face at you for some reason. And so he brought about what many would consider positive change for the Roman Empire. So there were few surviving sources about his reign, although he's described as a noble and moderate emperor during the first 6 months of his rule.
Okay, so we got half a year in as like a chill dude.
So these are a few things that he did that were considered positive.
Okay.
So he freed political prisoners. He gave bonuses to those in the military.
Smart.
He gave a cash gift of about $1,000 in today's money to the head of every household. Yeah. He established chariot races.
To the head of every household?
To the head of every household. So each household received what would be...
So it's almost like a tax package, kind of.
Right. So he's basically... What happened with Tiberius was that he taxed people relentlessly and took a lot of money from people and used it to build his own lavish buildings and do his own stuff. So he was giving back to the people. He wanted the people to love him because they hated Tiberius.
It's a little bit of a Tammany Hall situation. No?
No? What?
Okay.
I don't understand the reference.
You know, like Bronx of New York, era New York?
Sure.
There was a guy who was like mayor or something. Who I don't know if his name was Tammany or the building was named Tammany, I don't remember. But like in order to get all the poor people to vote for him, even though he's screwing them over, he bought them all like a turkey for Thanksgiving.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
Like,
I do know about this.
The Tammany Hall scandal and stuff.
Oh,
so we would see that years later. That's a shame.
That's like trying to buy your way into heaven, buying and selling of indulgences or whatever. So he established chariot races. I think I said that, but that's something that he did to make sure that everybody had a fun time. Like,
Charlton Heston, big fan of that one.
Uh-huh. They also, I mean, they had like the gladiators fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He abolished the sales tax.
God, it's so okay. Sorry to interrupt.
It's weird to think that there's a sales
tax. It's so wild to think of a think of that much economical like.
The Romans were ahead of their time in a big way. Like they did the aqueducts, they did all kinds of fancy stuff. Like they were ahead of their time in a lot of ways.
As opposed to the land ducks.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna punch you.
Yeah.
He respected the Senate, and they hated Tiberius. They couldn't stand Tiberius, so they were happy that they were actually respected now. And he recalled political exiles. So Tiberius, if anybody ever spoke negatively about him, had them exiled, he recalled that. And he also got his mom and his brother's bones and brought them back and had them buried in the tomb of Augustus. So he brought back their bones. Sad. Yeah, it is sad.
I mean, it makes sense that he would recall exile, right? Like,
yeah. I mean,
everything.
And think about it. Your new emperor is bringing back maybe members of your family that have been exiled for years that you finally get to see them again. Like, of course you're going to love that guy. And you just got a
brand?
That guy's great.
This guy's great.
This guy's great. So,
let's kill more goats.
About a month later, everything changed.
Okay.
So, reports differ. Some people believe he fell ill. Some people believe he was poisoned. But he got sick.
Oh.
He got really sick. Afterwards, he had a completely different outlook on life. Now, some people say maybe he was faced with his own mortality and realized how he could die at any moment and he better make the most of life while he's got it. Other people thought he went insane. So, he believed himself to be the absolute ruler now. He was the ruler.
Okay.
He regarded himself as a god. He built personal altars to himself all over his empire. He was a megalomaniac. All of a sudden.
Great Incubus song.
Yes. 7 months in. So he had that first 6 months. Went pretty well.
Yeah.
A month later, nope. He's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs now. So he had his cousin who he had adopted as his son.
Okay.
At the time.
Yeah.
And the prefect put to death. So he had Macro. Or Marco, or Micro. And his cousin, who he had adopted as his son, put to death. Now, some say that the Praetorian prefect killed himself, committed suicide. But, like I said, we never really know.
Ipso facto.
He revived treason trials so that he could confiscate property of convicted persons. And he built a bridge that crossed between his palace and nearby temples so that he could communicate with the gods. I think he spoke to Jupiter. I think he had one that went specifically to Jupiter's temple, and he would just cross it and just speak to the gods as if he was a god.
Interesting.
So he just talked to the gods. He had 3 sisters.
Kind of cool.
With whom he was alleged to have committed incest.
Yeah, no surprise.
I mean... And... yeah, like that's not
just given
the time. The time
yeah.
too is just like that's not a shock. Became even more paranoid than he already had been, and was in constant fear of assassination. Foreshadowing. And he would put to death anyone around him who he believed to be a threat. So literally, he was just trying to. He was the most paranoid. He was trying to kill anyone. He would just like kill anybody that he thought was a threat to him whatsoever.
You look at him funny or dead.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. So he kept his uncle Claudius around to poke fun at him. And that's the only reason he had him there.
Okay.
Yeah, so Claudius...
Like a dinner for schmuck scenario?
Yeah, so Claudius drooled, he stammered, and he had a limp. And so that made him an easy target for cruel jokes from Caligula. Also... he planned to appoint his horse to the high office of consul.
Oh, I've heard of this.
He even gave...
I didn't know that was Caligula, but I've heard that story.
Yeah. He even gave the animal his own house with a marble stall and an ivory manger, but was, you guessed it, assassinated before he could actually move forward with any of these plans.
I thought you meant the horse for a second. Another horse comes through.
Another crocodile came through. Bit a horse ankle off. They die.
A horse comes through with piano wire.
Oh my god, mask on its face. Yeah. Stands behind you. And then you find Caligula's head in your bed when you throw your blankets down.
How's that for a twist? Take that, Marlon Brando.
That's the twist noise.
He was like Batman's scene transition.
Yeah, it's always a twist.
Whoa.
So he was assassinated alongside his wife and child because they didn't want anybody to be able to. Yeah, they didn't want anybody to be able to have any kind of uprising in his name, right? Which is pretty sad. But at that point, everybody was like, "We hate you. Your whole family died. We don't care." And he was assassinated by his own bodyguards in cahoots with the Senate.
Oh.
Yeah. So the Senate kind of turned around and didn't much care for him anymore.
In a weird way, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's like the most extreme form of democracy maybe ever, but it is like, in a weird way, democratic.
They were like, we can't handle this anymore. Yeah. Bye. He was stabbed more than 30 times.
See, another trend of the era.
Stabbings.
Like, just so many stabbings.
Yeah, you were poisoned or stabbed.
Yeah.
Or thrown off a
You got turned into a cheese grater. Like,
yeah. Yeah, you were literally Swiss cheese at that point.
Yeah.
They just cut you open and all your stuff fell out. You need your blood to live.
Fun fact.
And then it falls out of you and you can't live no more.
Hey, Liddy.
Hey, what?
There's your, if someone's playing the Liddy Click to Learn More home game, they can now put the star on the board for murder mention.
Yeah.
I guess you could have in like the first 4 minutes.
There's your murder mention. You need your blood to live.
The main character.
So afterwards, it was said that Caligula, quote, and this is a very cool quote.
Okay.
Learned by actual experience he was not a god.
Oh, that's savage.
He learned he was not a god by actual experience.
It's a great quote.
So, now, you want a twist? Oh, y'all wanted a twist? Found cowering behind a curtain, fearing for his own life, and the only surviving adult male at this time, Claudius, is now named the new emperor of the Roman Empire.
Oh.
Dun, dun, dun!
That's awesome!
Yeah. So Claudius would later...
History is cool.
He would later say that this whole, like, simpleton thing was an act, and that he was actually really smart.
Interesting.
Okay, so just a brief side note about Claudius. Claudius's own mother insulted him and said something about how God had half made him, and then didn't complete the job.
Yeah.
His own mother.
That's a hell of an insult.
His own mother said
especially from your mama.
Yeah, that he was half completed. So
Jesus.
We're gonna move forward now with some more information about his being Caligula's supposed insanity. Okay. But keep in mind during this section that there's a ton of misinformation out there about Caligula.
Yeah.
Because much of it was written by his detractors.
All those Caligulan tabloids, man.
That's it. Because of this, it's important to take these stories with a grain of salt. So keep that in mind.
Salt shakers out.
Yes, throw them away just for this one. No low sodium time. While many view this story as a myth, it deserves to be told. Okay. So, in an act of defiance against the soothsayer, which was an oracle, who said he had, quote...
The floaty ladies from 300.
Yes, the floaty 10-year-olds. Had, quote, no more chance of becoming emperor than riding a horse across the Bay of Baiae, which is spelled weird, but it's Baiae.
Okay.
Caligula once ordered a temporary floating bridge to be constructed that would stretch for over 2 miles over the Bay of Baiae. Caligula, who couldn't swim, then rode his favorite horse across this floating bridge, wearing the breastplate of Alexander the Great.
That's fucking awesome.
I
know he was crazy. That's amazing.
So he was like, oh yeah?
Oh, you think I can't do it?
Then I'm gonna do it.
Harold!
Yeah.
We need a bridge!
Maud? Yeah.
Maud? Harold and Maud. Fuck you!
You just shoved me. You just got so mad about that.
It makes a Harold and Maud reference.
You just got so mad you shoved me. That was very good.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. It was a very good joke. He also had 2 large ships constructed for him. The smaller ship was designed as a floating temple dedicated to Diana, who was the goddess of the hunt, the moon, and nature. And the larger ship...
Good thing to be gods.
Yeah. The larger ship was a floating palace with working plumbing, marble floors, and was referred to as a pleasure barge.
That's what they called me in high school.
He had a party boat.
Yeah.
He had a party boat.
He had some... That's beautiful.
Yep.
I kind of love him in the worst way.
Yeah.
Like, he's
the villain in the movie. Like, he's the Joker.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
I was going to make that reference earlier when talking about the backstory, because this seems like it could,
like,
because we don't know Joker's backstory, it could be Joker's backstory.
He's the villain that you don't want to like, but you kind of like, because the stuff that he does is so kind of outlandish and wild, and you're kind of like,
awesome, yeah.
You're kind of like, all right, I kind of like you. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
So 13 years after they were raised, the ships were burned down during an attack. So they stood for 13 years. So that's not bad.
Yeah.
So in 40 AD, Caligula began implementing very controversial... I did this once before. Controversial?
I said controversial.
Controversial. There we go. It's like when I tried to say horseradish that time.
Yeah.
And I say horseradish.
Yeah.
Horseradish. Anyway, it was a lot of controversy. His policies had controversy.
Yeah.
That introduced religion into his political role. So he began appearing in public dressed as various gods and demigods, such as Hercules, Mercury, Venus, and Apollo.
That's awesome.
He cross-dressed.
Yeah.
He would show up and cross-dress.
That's so good.
He reportedly began referring to himself as a god when meeting with politicians and was referred to as Jupiter, quote unquote, on occasion in public documents. Written documents referred to him as Jupiter, who was a god. Yeah. Also, and this is stupid, but it's great in a really dumb way, and you're probably going to love it.
Okay.
He had the heads removed from various statues of gods located across Rome and replaced them with his own.
Yes! Yes! This dude.
He took the heads off of statues of gods.
Oh, that's awesome.
And replaced them with statues like his
good.
own head.
That's amazing.
Isn't that weird? It's said that he wished to be worshipped as Neos Helios, or the new sun. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Indeed, he was represented as a sun god on Egyptian coins.
What's up with... On Egyptian coins?
On Egyptian coins, yeah.
What's up with, like, weird tyrannical rulers wanting to be sun gods?
I don't know. And it's always a god thing.
Was the sun god, right?
Yes. Or
yeah.
16th? 14th?
I think 14th was the sun
14th,
god.
15th, or 16th.
16th was the big one.
One of the Louis.
I don't know.
One of those.
It could have been 16th.
One of those wild
Louis.
Louis.
Oh.
One of those.
Yeah,
You're a sun god now. So, a little bit about Caligula and his physical attributes. He was tall, pale, and so hairy that he made it a capital offense to mention a goat in his presence.
Could you imagine? Okay.
You could not talk about goats in his presence. So what do you say?
Right.
What do you say?
Could you imagine?
Man, I can't wait to go sacrifice a bunch of those four-legged horned things later.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say?
Exactly. Imagine being like his trade commissioner or at the time, like just being like, oh yeah, we've got 100 small cows out there in the yard.
We got 100 out there.
That's good.
You know? Like, what do you do? Not the sheeps.
We got 100 not sheeps.
We got 100 not sheeps out there.
That's very good.
We gotta, like, what do you call them at that point? Could you imagine if you slipped up on accident? I'd leave.
I mean, you would.
One way or the other.
Box.
Yeah, you'd die. But I read somewhere that he was bald, but hairy all over at this point. But I don't know if that's legit. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the truth is there.
A cruel fate.
Yeah. He tormented high-ranking senators by making them run for miles in front of his chariot.
What?
He ran down senators. No wonder they hated him.
Yeah,
no wonder they helped stab him.
Nobody wants to exercise.
Nobody, like, that's the problem, of course. Nobody wants forced cardio. But, like, he definitely earned his stabbings in a way.
Yeah.
Because when you hear 30 stabbings, you think overkill, but then you think maybe that's every mile that he made you run in front of his freaking, in front of his freaking chariot being pulled by horses.
Right.
At that point, you're going to earn yourself a couple more stabs, a couple more superficial stabs just for fun at that point.
Yeah, just while you have them.
He also forced senators to grovel and kiss his feet, and he would seduce their wives at dinner parties that their husbands were attending.
Just like right in front of him.
In front of him. In fact, he had brazen affairs with the wives of his allies, often at parties where the men were attending, and he would return to the dinner table. He would do it during the dinner.
Oh my God.
Would return to the table and rate their wives' abilities in the bedroom out loud in front of everyone.
Okay, I don't like him as much.
At the dinner table. He knew that he was ugly.
Okay.
And he worked to accentuate his natural ugliness by practicing terrifying faces in the mirror.
Beautiful.
So he would practice terrifying faces. Because he wanted to be more frightening than he already was, I guess.
Weird.
Yeah. That's an odd thing.
Yeah.
See, that sounds like something somebody makes up.
Yeah,
that sounds like a made-up story.
It sounds like Machiavellian in a way.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I have a reference to him later.
Ah.
It's almost like, oh, I heard she stuffs her bra. It's that kind of, like, childish, like, oh, he's so ugly, he must practice his faces in the mirror.
Right. Yeah.
Like...
His face was actually frozen this way, some reporters said.
Yeah, exactly. Now, he literally wallowed in luxury, allegedly rolling around in piles of money and drinking precious pearls dissolved in vinegar.
Oh!
Which I thought was weird. That'd be hard on the GI tract, I think. Swallowing pearls?
Small side note.
Yeah.
I was in the grocery store the other day.
And you bought some pearls.
And I saw something labeled as sippin' vinegar. Now, I know people drink vinegar because apparently it's like a health thing.
Like apple cider vinegar, sure.
But it was labeled sippin' vinegar.
Sippin'.
That's all I got.
Sippin'? Like apostrophe at the end of the end?
Yep.
Sippin' vinegar.
Like you drink it.
Like you're drinking it? Ugh, I hate it.
Also, I'm glad I made that joke because you said pearls and GI tract, and I went a very specific, different way in my head.
Mm-hmm. You wouldn't want those after they came back out to be like part of a necklace. That's a pearl necklace you don't want. There's many that you don't want.
Thank you.
This would be one of the ones that you don't want.
This isn't the one that...
This isn't the
Pretty Woman.
This isn't the Pretty Woman, like... Yeah, it's not that one. That was beautifully choreographed.
Thank you.
So he continued his childhood games of dress up as well, and he would don strange clothing, women's shoes, and lavish accessories and wigs. And he would like go out into the public like this and be like, nobody knows it's me. And meanwhile, like everybody's like, there goes Caligula.
Caligula's got a wig on today.
There goes Caligula. Yep. He's wearing his favorite wig today. Yep.
Whoa, sorry.
Oh, he's got the silver sandals on today. Can you believe it? Like we know it's you.
Yeah.
Dummy.
You just walked out the door of the
palace. You've got your armed guards following you. Like we know it's you.
Who's this mysterious lady?
Who could this be?
She's a woman.
She's a woman. In 39 and 40 AD, he led military campaigns to the Rhine and English Channel, where he put on battles for theatrical displays. At one point, commanding his troops to attack Neptune and, quote, plunder the sea by gathering shells in their helmets to bring home as trophies. Okay, now this is the story that I was going to tell. Yeah. I was going to tell just the story of how he attacked the sea. However, when I looked it up, a lot of historians are saying this didn't happen. It's an oversimplification. Like, they were going down as a fact-finding mission, and he told his men to grab seashells as proof to the rest of the civilians and to people like, yes, we went there, here's the shells, see, we were there.
Right. Here's the shells, see? That was very good.
However, some people say that his troops were too afraid to move forward, so he was attempting to shame them by saying, fine, we'll attack the ocean. So, like, if you can't handle troops, attack the ocean.
I've had this in my mind the whole time.
Yeah.
Caligula sounds like a drunk playthrough of a Civilization game.
He sounds like...
It's just like, I'm going to attack the ocean. Like, I just want to see what this game will let me do.
He sounds like a drunk idiot.
Yeah.
Like, he does. He sounds like a drunk idiot with too much power. Many people have compared him to Trump. This is a side note. This is just a side note. I don't have any political information to share further. But many people have compared him to Trump, and I'm just going to say that.
Isn't that something?
I'm just going to say that. Also, he was a narcissist, and many people compare him to Trump. And I'm just going to say that, and that's what I'm just going to say.
Isn't
that something? Anyway, other people say that the story never happened. He never actually attacked the ocean. So when it's referenced, and when you see it online, it will say that he told his men to attack Poseidon. That's incorrect. Poseidon was a Greek god.
Yeah, it would have been
not
Uranus.
A Roman god. And
Neptune,
the Roman...
not Uranus. It would have been Neptune, not Uranus. I said Uranus, and it's Neptune.
So it's Neptune instead of Poseidon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just messed up.
Uranus. I just like how you say it.
That's how you say it.
I know, but I wasn't expecting you to talk about it, so it just caught me off guard. Still, it's a fun story. Regardless of if it happened or didn't happen. It's a fun story. So
I also love that because of the other things we knew he did, it's within the realm of possibility that this even happened.
Right. So a lot of people that I found, so I started looking on historian message boards and stuff to see if any of this was true. I know.
It's all written in papyrus.
Listen.
On stone tablets.
I had to download all these fonts. I didn't have birds and stuff. Anyways, no, that's Egyptian. Anyways, so
you made a hieroglyphics joke. I didn't get it at first. Okay, I got you.
So, a lot of people were saying that this never happened, and it was just I think something printed by his detractors and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were calling him like the biggest troll. Like that he was just a huge troll. Like he would just show up places with his army and be like, "We want to fight.
Let's do it."
And they'd be like, "What?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, we want to fight you now." And they'd be like, "What? We have no qualms with you. What's the deal?" And he'd be like, "I just want to fight." And then he would just fight people for no.
He's drunk Civ leader.
He just wasn't all there. Okay, he just wasn't all there. His biographer Suetonius, he had a couple of he had Sue for short. He had a couple of biographies. Quotes his oft-repeated phrase, quote, "Remember that I have the right to do anything to anybody."
All right.
So some say that appointing his horse was another act of, quote, "I do what I want."
Trolling, yeah.
And not actually madness. So some people were like, he was crazy. He tried to make his horse his consul. And then other people were like, well, he was probably just saying, like, look how much power I have. Yeah. I can make any person. Make a horse. Yeah. I could put any person in this position. I'm going to choose a horse.
That seems more likely to me.
There's two different sides. Mad like a hatter. Mad like a fox. So he loved watching tortures and executions, and, disguised in a wig and a robe, would abandon himself nightly to the pleasures of feasting and scandalous living. So he would go out and, like, just hump it up, you know?
That wasn't.
He would just...
you waxed poetic and then you didn't.
I waxed poetic and then I ripped it off.
And then you waned poetic.
In one instance, he was about to sacrifice an animal as a sacred offering to the gods, and he raised his mallet to kill the animal and brought it down hard, but at the last moment, he turned and struck a priest standing nearby who died instantly. So, ta-da! There's that.
Okay.
There's that, I guess.
Kinda cool.
No!
Because he was gonna sacrifice this innocent animal.
Well, that's a power play, right? It's to be like...
it's the...
He probably also killed the animal.
Yeah, the animals. I mean, they're both dead now.
They're dead either way, yeah.
So, like, just the idea, again, of, like, the mad villain just, like, about to kill this animal.
And it's just
going, like... Boom! Yeah, just, like, destroys.
He's the Joker.
Right, exactly.
That's a Joker move.
Yeah.
To make you think he's going to do this one thing and then switch it up on you.
Next, he'll break them out in half, give them to two priests, and say they got to fight
and then you fight to the death. The last one standing comes with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think...
It's a cool story.
Of
course it's not
right.
like a good thing.
Right. It's an interesting story about him either way. Now, there are some theories, if he were mad, if he were crazy, there's some theories for why that may be. Okay. So, some say he was insane. But a few historians... Right. Don't you know he's loco? But a few historians theorize that Caligula may have suffered from epilepsy. Okay. And he had lived with a constant fear of having seizures. Now, this comes from a theory that said he was supposed to have spoken to the moon, and many believed that epilepsy was caused by the effects of the moon. So many people believed that the moon caused epilepsy. I don't know why. Maybe more people had seizures at night, and they believed that the moon was the cause for this. I don't know.
Sure. Or
not
like
sure.
The transition of light, maybe.
Maybe. Other historians said that he may have suffered from hyperthyroidism due to his irritability and the way he would often stare off into the distance. And others yet say he may have had Wilson's disease, which is an inherited disorder that can cause mental instability. Now, if he were unstable mentally, that one makes the most sense to me because look at his previous ancestors. Look at Tiberius, who killed his own... Yeah. I guess it was... I don't know if his brother-in-law or... Because I don't think it was his blood relation. But anyway. Sure. Look at all the people that he killed because he thought people were getting too close. And then you got Julius Caesar. You got Augustus. You got all of these people who have kind of a cloudy, like, history of mental ability. And then... a lot of stabbings. Yeah. A lot of stabbings.
Lots of stabs.
Lots of the stabs. So, to me, it would make sense that he would have something that's passed down through his DNA. Or that is, somehow ingrained in him to do this. Especially if he flipped the switch from being this great, wonderful leader to being this, like, really horrible, terrible person. Like, something happened to him.
Something
like,
had to have happened.
We don't know what, but something must have happened to him.
Right.
So, the film, Caligula...
Oh.
There's a film. It's infamous because it's apparently terrible. I don't know.
Like, terrible as in depicts a lot of this bad stuff, or just actually not a good movie?
So, it's the first major motion picture that juxtaposed segments featuring respected mainstream actors with scenes that were essentially pornographic.
Oh.
Yeah. It's actually banned in Canada and Iceland.
Weird.
And it's banned in a few countries. Yeah.
That's so, I've never heard of this
It's
film.
considered infamous.
Do you know what year?
No, I don't. But I think it has, like... I looked it up briefly because it just, like, it was kind of a throwaway thing. Yeah. And it had, like, a 1-star review.
Ooh.
I don't know what the Rotten Tomatoes
usually the least
score
stars
would
you
be.
can get.
Yeah, maybe half a star is the worst you could do. But one of Caligula's quotes, which I thought summed him up pretty well, and it's what we'll end on today.
Okay.
Is, let them hate me so long as they fear me. Which brings me back to Machiavelli, who said, it's better to be feared than loved if one cannot be both.
Yeah.
So instead of going do I want to be feared? Do I want to be loved? He just went, I don't care if they hate me. I just want them to fear me.
Yeah.
Like, fear was his main thing.
The true Machiavellian.
That's what he wanted. He wanted them to fear him. And they did. And then they killed him. Stabbed him over 30 times. Yeah. You scare people enough, they'll stab you.
That was awesome.
It was super fun reading about him.
That was a really top-notch job you just did.
I didn't expect Caligula to be so interesting in his past. Because, like, history is not normally my thing, but when I started getting into it, because first we were going to do, like I said, we were going to do how he attacked the ocean, because that's funny to me.
Sure.
And then I looked it up, I was like, oh no, it might be fake. And then I saw this link that was like, many stories about him are fake. And I was like, wait, what are the other stories? And I was like, huh?
This dude's wild.
This dude is crazy.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly literally. So after that, I was just like, this is cool. So I found as much information as I could. Granted, there's a ton more information about him.
Sure.
I started to watch a documentary. I think it's called like the 1,440 Days with Caligula or of Caligula or something. And it starts
not a sequel to 500 Days of Summer.
Not at all.
Zoe Deschanel, not in this film.
It's a prequel, actually. And it starts with, like, as a child, and then his military, or not military career, but his life as an emperor, and his short-lived life. Yeah. And then ultimately his death. And so it's interesting if you want to spend an hour and 30 minutes or an hour and 40 minutes watching something on YouTube while you're at work. Otherwise, you know, if this is your thing. I tried to touch on the main points, one of which was I can't believe that he had sex with people who were in his dining room and then came back and raided their wives in front of them.
Pretender in a way that I cannot imagine.
That's like some kind of the pickup artist nonsense.
Oh God, the VH1 show?
Like, this is how you get women. You rate your peers in front of their husbands. Like, he would just walk over and be like, you. And they would go with him because he would seduce them.
Yeah, and otherwise, I mean, how do you say no to the emperor?
And you're afraid of him because he might kill you. And then, ta-da.
7.
That's what he sounded like.
Man, being emperor's hard.
Oh, now I feel sorry for him.
No.
Yeah, and then he invented the Caligula.
Which?
The famous move that we all know and love. Dorm, where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/dormstreams. Where can they find you?
Twitch.tv/Team Lidi.
Until next time, watch where you click. What's a Caligula?
A Caligula is when you take. I'm gonna need some. Do you have wooden blocks? Do you have any wooden blocks,
No.
or perhaps some like paper cut, some foam maybe if you like foam.
Labo.
We could work it out with Labo. It needs to be bendable.
Oh.
It needs to be able to bend in multiple ways. Is the